Nomad Capitalist has just released the list of the 10 best passports for 2022. I'm going to share them with you right now. I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist, where we've helped everyone from multiple billionaires to internet celebrities to everyday 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors like yourself who want to legally go where you're treated best. And every year since 2017, we have put out the Nomad Passport Index. This is our response to other passport index that list only visa-free travel. But what I've said for some time, and now people are starting to catch on, I think, is that when you're looking for a second passport, something that we believe everyone should have if they want to protect their finances, their freedom, and their family, you don't want to look just at visa-free travel. For example, if you are a U.S. citizen and you plan on keeping your U.S. citizenship, whether you want to live in the U.S. or whether you want to live overseas, the idea of adding more visa-free countries is going to be rather difficult. You can get a passport that can give you visa-free access to China or Russia or Venezuela, probably not places that most people want to go right now. But is that really going to substantially improve your life? For a small number of people who maybe do business in some countries that are harder to go to as Americans, sure. But that's obviously more targeted at folks who have lower quality passports. And yet, at the same time, I don't care how bad your passport is, if you're looking for a Western, what we call Tier A passport, the idea that you would move to the United States, where becoming a citizen then comes with tax and regulatory obligations that follow you no matter where you go, that makes that passport of lower quality than a passport, say, in Europe that has visa-free access to 2 or 3 fewer countries, but doesn't come with that burden. So we like to look at passports as a holistic method. And you can go to nomadcapitalist.com. You can look up our Nomad Passport Index, and you can see our whole methodology, which is based around travel freedom, taxation, dual citizenship rights, the country's perception, and the country's freedom. And so obviously you can imagine that you've seen a number of Western countries lose their freedom over the last number of years, where they've lost some perception. Countries generally are more open to dual citizenship as time goes on, but taxation policies are becoming more repressive. And so those are all things that you need to consider. So what are the top 10 countries? Well, to get to number 1, it was Luxembourg. Luxembourg stands out because they have visa-free travel to 189 countries and territories. Now remember, depending on how you splice and dice, you can have as many as 252 sovereign countries and territories. So the Cayman Islands, for example, might have its own visa policy, even though it's not a sovereign country. So 189 countries that you can go to. We used other indexes to calculate this number. Their number is 189. That means a Luxembourg passport can travel pretty much everywhere. You're not going to go to a number of countries in Africa. There's going to be some countries in Asia that you can't go to. But by and large, you have pretty good travel freedom as long as there are no pandemic or other kinds of restrictions on your passport. Taxation in Luxembourg was a 30 out of 50. So this is kind of mid-level for us, where if you are a tax resident of Luxembourg, you can get out with some level of ease, and that taxation does not follow you as a citizen. But the perception is good, dual citizenship rights are good, the freedom is good. Luxembourg made, once again, the number 1 rank with, on our score, 115.5 points. Just below that with 115 points was Sweden. So Sweden came in because, again, very good travel. Taxation was not so bad in terms of if you're leaving, you can maneuver around that. It's not perfect, by the way. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying it's easier to get out than some other similar countries. Ireland came in at number 3. So in these countries, you've got travel of 189 for Luxembourg, 188 for Sweden, and 187 for Ireland. That's pretty much the same. And so on a normal passport index, you would see all the ones with 189, which, by the way, there's some below here that have 189, 190, 190, 188 that score lower, right? What's that one extra country? I mean, in some cases, it might be like Equatorial Guinea. It might be an e-visa to some far-flung country. In some cases, it is a serious place. I know that a number of years ago, South Africa fired a warning shot at Western countries who didn't let their citizens go in reciprocity without a visa, and they fired the warning shot at New Zealand because it's a small enough country. They said, "Hey, look at what we can do to you." And so, New Zealanders had that loss of a country that, hey, it's a nice country to visit, South Africa, every once in a while, nice beaches. But by and large, the countries that you're losing are pretty inconsequential for the average person. And so, adding in taxation, perception, dual citizenship, and freedom to me is a lot more important than whether I can go to Equatorial Guinea or the Central African Republic or whatever else. Heck, even if you had to get a visa for that once every 5 years trip to South Africa, it's not going to be that difficult if you have any kind of wealth, bank statements, you're a productive person, it's not going to be hard. Tied for number 4 are 2 countries, Belgium and Switzerland. Now, the travel, visa-free travel continues to reduce here. You're down to 186. So we started at 189, we went all way down to 186. Now, consider what happens with European Union travel. The Schengen area, the borderless Schengen area, has something called Annex 2, countries that can visit the Schengen area without a visa for 90 to 180 days. Generally speaking, obviously a lot of countries around the world let European Union citizens come. Some might pick and choose, right? So Turkey, for example, historically, has said, you guys need e-visas. Now I think Turkey finally pretty much harmonized its visa policy, but for a long time it was like Germans had the best access, and then British, when they were in the EU, still had to get an e-visa. And because Turks don't have access to the Schengen area without a visa, they can do whatever they want. But when a country gets added to Schengen Annex 2, the deal is reciprocity. We can come to your country, and your citizens can come to all of our countries, but you have to be totally equal. The US and Australia are the only 2 ones that I'm aware of that don't honor that, where they pick and choose who, we don't want the Bulgarians, for example. So keep in mind, when we say like Belgium, for example, has 3 fewer countries of access than Luxembourg, those 3 countries probably aren't reciprocal countries. It may be some country in Africa, it may be some country that you don't really want to go to. There's obviously plenty of countries in Africa that are worth going to, but for most people, is 3 extra countries that you've maybe never even thought about what's going to move the needle? No, but still, we rank them as number 4th. They're tied with Switzerland, which also has 186 countries. High freedom, high dual citizenship privileges, obviously a great perception. Taxes, maybe not great living there, but you can at least have the option as a citizen to leave. Now, tied for number 6, we've got 3 countries, Finland, Portugal, and the Czech Republic. Finland comes out with the highest travel score here at 185, Portugal 187, Czech Republic 185. Again, are those extra 2, 3, 4 countries going to make a difference? I think that typically people look at, which country has the most passports or which has the most travel? And you'll typically see in a normal passport index a country that only has 185 versus 189, 190. It'll be way down the list. Okay. Now remember, our index, we skip over the numbers. So there's first, there's second, there's third, there's 2 tied for 4th, and now there's 3 tied for 6th. So if I say you've got the 40th best passport, I mean in the entire world. I don't mean, like there's 1,000 other countries in front of you that each tied each other. I mean you're really number 40. So Finland, Portugal, and Czech Republic all tied for 6th. You saw in Portugal a few less than perfect scores in terms of perception because of some of the indexes that we consult. So in terms of happiness and human development, all that. Portugal, not as wealthy of a country as some people think, but great place to live. A lot of folks are going there for the crypto tax incentives, business tax incentives, great weather. They're working towards that passport. It is the 6th best passport in the world in Portugal, and it's tied with Finland and the Czech Republic. And then tied for number 9 is the Netherlands and Singapore. Now the Netherlands, there are some cases where dual citizenship can be had, but the Netherlands has historically been more closed off to dual citizenship, and so that affected it. They do have visa-free travel to 188 countries. They do have otherwise good marks. Singapore, same thing. Dual citizenship generally not allowed, and so that impacted its 192 countries. You've often seen Japan, and you've seen Singapore bandied around as the world's best passports. And if all you care about is travel privileges, then sure, the Singapore and Japan, for example, have some form of visa-free access to China. They're in Asia, so they have greater access in Asia, including to countries that might otherwise be more difficult to get in for Western passports. And so again, for some business people who are doing business in Asia, that could be worth it. But is having the inability to have dual citizenship in Japan and Singapore, is that worth it? Okay. Obviously, the Netherlands is at a disadvantage, even though it's very strong in every other metric, to its EU counterparts because dual citizenship is more difficult. And so if you could choose to be Belgian or if you could choose to be Dutch, if you're going to be a nomad capitalist, I'll be Belgian and then I'll add on something else and then something else, whether as in the Netherlands, that's going to be a bit more difficult. Does that make the Dutch passport bad? Absolutely not. It just means that you have one less freedom. And so when we've had an increasing number of Dutch clients come to us, some of them are contemplating, should I keep my Dutch citizenship? Because if I'm stuck with that citizenship at the wrong time when they decide to roll out some crazy new extraterritorial tax, or they put some new restrictions, a new regulation, I can't invest in certain things. Maybe I become like a US citizen where I'm kicked out of certain investments. That's going to cost me a lot of money. And so maybe I want to be prepared in advance to have a series of other passports to protect my freedom and my finances. That's the question some folks and other ones have been asking. Does that mean the passport is bad by any means to the general population? Absolutely not. So those are the top 10 passports from our Nomad Passport Index in 2022. Which one of those would you rather have? Leave a comment below. We want to hear from you. Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. Learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.